What's up, Insaners, and welcome to our final FPL video of the season. In today's video, guys, we will be reviewing our entire FPL season. We'll also talk about our overall rank, how we fared across different phases of the season, what we did right and wrong, and what are the key takeaways into the next season. Before we get further, guys, make sure you like today's video. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want regular updates regarding FPL and of course the Euros that are coming up. It's been a pleasure playing FPL with all of you this year, guys. I've had so much fun creating content and recording videos for you every week. You guys have been amazing. It's been a really difficult year for me personally, but the love that all of you have shown has made it totally worth it. Thank you guys so much. Great. With that, let's get into all the meaty stuff. Coming to the season summary, we had a pretty good season, finishing around the 16,000 mark in the world. Our total points were 2,475, and I think we were just about 17 points behind the top 10k, but still pretty happy with the score. Guys, in case you don't know, I'm from India and I finished in the top 1k in my country. 775 was pretty decent, but I would surely want to go even better next year. We had a pretty average start to the season. Now our game week 1 rank was just outside 1 million. It wasn't the worst, guys, but we could have done a lot better. I remember a lot of managers went for Aubameyang as a premium option at the start. Guys, I also went for him and it surely didn't work out. Now Salah on the other hand had a great first game, scoring 20 points. We had him in our team but didn't captain him, and that was our first mistake. Coming to game week 3, and it was easily our worst game week, guys. What a bad game week. We only scored 39 points, and over that we took a -8 to get rid of Aubameyang and a few injured players in our squad. Guys, this was also our lowest rank of the season and we dropped around the 3 million mark in game week 3. Definitely not ideal. Now the weeks after that, we were mostly playing catch up, but we did pretty well and got to around 500,000 around game week 8. Guys, game week 8 to 14 was slow as we gained in rank but not by much. We had consistent green arrows. Now I remember it wasn't these weeks that we had a couple of really good differentials in Mahrez and Ziyech, but both didn't work out, especially as these moves came at a cost of transferring out Son, who continued to do well. Guys, another mistake that we made this season. Now in order to move up at a rapid pace, we did try to catch a few hauls and we took a few hits. In fact, this is another thing that we would like to improve next season. Now from game week 14 to 24, we took 3 8-point hits and 4 4-point hits. Now guys, that's a lot if you look at the overall scheme of things. Yes, it definitely did help us rack some decent points, but they weren't as high to really move us deep in the green. By game week 24, slowly we were floating around the 100k mark, guys. Now to push from there, we ended up taking more hits. It did help us again to get a little bit better, and we went to 80k by game week 29. Now we played a free hit, and looking at how the season went, we probably could have played it at a better stage. The time we used it, I think it was game week 19. We only had 4 to 5 players that week, so if you look at things from that angle, I think it was a fair decision. Bench boost was definitely a flop. We only got 6 points from 3 players. Definitely lost out on about 10 to 15 points to make it more effective. Now coming to wildcards, and wildcards this season, they worked really well. In fact, both of them helped us get some really good picks and really push on from there. Guys, I feel game week 30 is when we really started to push up the ranks. By game week 33, we moved from 80,000 to about 25k in the world. To get this, we didn't take any hits, we made some sensible captaincy decisions, and we bet on a few calculated risks. Now we plateaued around that mark for 4 weeks before that final day money captain punt that got us back well within 20k. Guys, we finished the season at 16,000 in the world and a decent end to a pretty poor start, I would say. Let's look at some more stats here. Now the formation that we used most this season was a 3-4-3, and I think it went pretty well. Our focus was always to get a premium back 3 made up of differential picks and some popular options. We went 4 across midfield, and that meant that here too, we could focus on at least getting a couple of premium options who also acted as decent captaincy picks every week. In attack, we generally went with Kane and 2 budget options, playing all 3 of them for most games. Guys, as I mentioned, our start was a bit slow, but we definitely picked up the pace in the second half of the season. The average score from game week 19 to 38 was a lot higher, pushing us close to that top 10k rank. Now in terms of captaincy, we scored a total of 576 points across the season. This is a decent 15 points per game week, but yeah, things could have been a lot better here. There were around 10 captaincy blanks throughout the season, and this number can be a lot lower next time around. In terms of our captain picks, guys, almost 80% of them were premium players, and we stuck to the big hitters for most of the game weeks. Our most captain player was Mo Salah, who we captained 8 times, out of which 3 were blanks. Now guys, that was a lot of data and a lot of statistics. Now there are a lot of learnings from this season, and let's get into that. So there are multiple things that I did well this season and a lot of things that I can improve on. I want to share my learnings with you guys so that you guys don't make the same mistakes and can do a lot better next season. So let's start with all the good things that I did first, and then we look at the negatives. Guys, the most important thing that I managed to do was to watch almost every game possible. There's absolutely nothing better than seeing every player from your own eyes and understanding their performances, recent form, and their overall viability from an FPL point of view. I know a lot of people might not be able to do this, but my suggestion here would be to try to watch as many games as possible. If not, make sure you catch up on the match highlights along with the online reviews of the game. Guys, the second thing that I did well this year was adapt myself to any kind of change. I was not very stubborn about holding on to any players and made transfers to catch players while they were still in form. Now this is very important if you have to excel at this game. Having pre-existing notions about certain players or any kind of bias won't help you. Now because of not being fixed on certain players, I was still able to catch on hot streaks of players like Gundogan, Lingard and even Iheanacho, which helped me gain rank. Another important thing that I did right for majority of the season, guys, was to plan for the next 3 to 4 weeks at least. Now there's no point in taking hits and getting in players for 1 week and then taking the same player out the next game week. You definitely won't be able to get the maximum out of that particular player if you sell him prematurely, obviously only in the case if they do well. The fourth thing in the list, and probably one of the most important, was that I did not take out of the blue risks to go rogue in any game week. I did take some risks and always had at least 2 to 3 differential players in my team, but they were all calculated moves. Because I looked at the particular fixture along with that player's form and then made the decision accordingly. Now the final thing that I want to talk about here is finding that sweet spot of going with your gut and trusting the data. Sure, I looked at a lot of stats every week, whether it was my defenders, midfielders or even attackers. I saw the game, I tried to look at the data, make sense of it, and I finally went with my gut after assessing the entire situation. I feel more often than not, it worked out pretty well. So guys, these are some of the positives that I take from this season. Now let's look into what went wrong and what can be improved. The first point I want to talk about is transfer planning. This is one of the most basic ones, and I kind of made that mistake in the first game week itself. Guys, I did start my FPL season with the likes of Werner, who was a new signing for the Chelsea at the time and came from the Bundesliga. Now there's no doubt that Werner has had a difficult season, so you might think that he was just one example of a pick gone wrong. I personally feel that there were a couple of more Chelsea players that I went for, and I'm talking about Havertz and Ziyech here, and it was clear to see that these new signings, especially the ones that came from a different league, they took time to settle and probably could have been avoided at the start of the season. Next season I would probably go with the regular players with a couple of differentials, but I would definitely avoid these kind of picks. Now the next point is to target teams playing promoted teams next season. Guys, this was another learning that I got early on in the season. Fulham, Leeds and West Brom, they were all promoted teams coming into the Premier League for the season, and all of them were leaking goals in the beginning. These are more because of how they play, but Fulham and West Brom defenses were actually bad, guys. I believe if any of the top teams are playing these newly promoted sides, targeting even a differential pick from these teams could be a decent bet next season. My third learning was to target budget picks. Another very important learning, and I would give equal attention to budget enablers next season. Now we could get a few from the promoted teams, or there still could be some good options from existing teams. Guys, I think it's important to target these players as they provide immense value for the buck and would also help you maximize your premium picks if you want to go there. Now having said that, there's still one thing that I realized this season. Yes, premium players like the Kanes, Salahs and the Brunos of the world are important, but getting players that would consistently get you more points, and especially the budget ones, are important as they would give you those extra points. Ultimately, the idea is to keep a balanced squad and score the maximum points available. Guys, another thing I realized from game week 1 this year was that we should probably not go too differential in terms of captaincy, even if it is a premium option, especially in the first game week. Now if it doesn't work out, you would be quite far and then you would do a lot of catch up for the next few weeks to cover those extra points. I'll tell you an example. Like Salah this year in the first game week scored 20 points and we missed on doubling that haul. In general, I trust the big hitters for captaincy for most weeks, Yes, there were a couple of weeks where I captained Gundogan, Iheanacho, or even Greenwood, but these were during good game week fixtures and all of these players being in really good form. Another thing that has become very clear to me this season is that if you nail the captaincy for most of the weeks, you will definitely beat the above average score almost every time. Now, coming to the most important learning for me this season, though I tried to plan my transfers for at least the medium term, but there were a few weeks where I misread the situation and made a few knee jerk decisions. Now, getting in the likes of Mahrez and KDB around game week 10 when both returned double digit hauls was one of the times. I wasted a couple of transfers on each player, one for getting them in and the other one for taking them out. It was definitely not worth it as it didn't do much, and I ended up taking hits for other transfers that I had to do in my team. Because next season I would avoid making such moves and get stuck in difficult situations. In general, I took a lot of hits this season. I gained from those moves, but not by much, and in a few instances, those moves could have been avoided altogether. Patience is the key to success in this game, guys. It's important that you play the long game rather than thinking short term and making rash decisions. Another very interesting learning this season was catching on those player runs and getting onto them as early as possible. Guys, this year we saw players like DCL, Gundogan, Lingard, and Iheanacho go on these amazing goal scoring runs. It's important to get onto these while they last. Generally, when the run started, guys, these players didn't have the right ownership, and you can take the first mover advantage by getting them early. You should definitely not let your bias cloud your judgment here. I heard a lot of people saying that these runs won't last, they are defying stats, and as a result, they lost out on massive returns. I think apart from DCL, we were able to catch these runs. I still feel that we could have done it just a little bit sooner, but nevertheless, it turned out to be fine. Guys, with this, we have come to the end of this video and the FPL content for this season. It was a pretty good season, and though I missed out on that initial 10k rank objective, I would still take 16,000 considering how my start to the season was. I hope you enjoyed this review video today. I know there are a lot of takeaways, guys, and I'm sure you will also have yours if you've played the game this season. So that will be all for today, but we're not going anywhere. We're also playing the Euro 2020 fantasy game. I'm already working on a video for the same, and it should be out in a day's time. Guys, we'll also be doing content for the Euros, so do watch out for that. Now, in terms of FPL, there is a surprise planned before the start of next season. We're planning something really interesting for July, and we'll be able to give you some updates sometime in June. Plus, we'll be doing a lot of preseason content as well, and I really hope you'll be back for that. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around till the end. I really loved your support and company this season. Please do enjoy yourself during this break, and I'll see you in Saners next season.